There we go. All right. So I guess we should get started then. So welcome everyone again. So first we start with our presenter, Alfred Hall. He is the executive the manager or director. Retired. Yes, just recently retired executive director of HUGS, which is the Hamilton Urban Gardener System. And today, Alfred is going to be talking to us about the 8 dimensions of wellness for the Sustaining Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and how we can incorporate gardening into that support. Okay, so you want to take it away, Alfred, or do you want to introduce?
Sure. No, I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Ready to go? All right, let's go.
All right. As Chelsea said, my name is Alfred Hall. I'm the co-founder with Patricia Burbacher of Hamilton Urban Garden Systems. We got together, Patty and ourselves, back in 2011 when she was a non-traditional student at Miami University, and she did her capstone project with me, and out of that capstone, we actually formed HUGS, which is what Hamilton Urban Garden Systems is, and we became a registered 501c3 nonprofit in 2012, and we've been doing urban farming ever since then. And in 2015, Patty and I got married, so Miami University gave me my wife too. So it's all good. So I'm going to go over how gardening intersects with mental health. We have an organization here in town called Healthy Hamilton, and they are an umbrella organization that works to improve the health of Hamiltonians and the residents of Butler County. And we have worked with them in the past on several different projects. And one of the things that we focus on when we work with them is how gardening actually affects mental well-being. So the history of HUGS, down.
Oh, there might be a delay, Alfred.
I'm sorry?
There might be a delay with the PowerPoint.
No, it's not going down. Can't get it to page down. Let's see what it says here. Zoom in, zoom out. It's not scrolling. Should just be page down.
And it's shared, right?
I'm sorry?
It's shared from your computer?
I believe so. Hello?
Yeah. Still hear you.
You don't see me, do you?
Yeah, I see your desktop.
There we go.
There you go.
Now we got it.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me, I'm a 69-year-old, technically challenged individual.
Fine.
I'm good at Microsoft Word, but when it comes to the internet, I could definitely be better. All right, so the history of HUGS. Like I said, I retired from HUGS after 8 years this last July. So in this presentation, when I say we, I'm actually talking about Hugs, although in my current position as fully retired from Hugs, I do other gardening. I'm doing a winter garden for one of the food pantries here in town, New Life Mission, and I'll be doing a garden for them again next year. So the we refers to me and Hugs when I was part of Hugs. But what we do is we educate, we grow and distribute, we manage, and we collaborate. We do training sessions in classrooms. We do teach and do in the garden, and we try to facilitate people's ability to become more self-sufficient by teaching them how to grow their own food organically, and then also how to preserve it, store it, use it to help them eat healthier. And then we also discuss other kinds of healthy lifestyle choices also in training sessions. We do have organic fruits, herbs, and vegetables that we grow. And we have a 2.3 acre community garden, hoop house, and food hub in the African American section of Hamilton, what's referred to as the Fourth Ward, and some people also refer to it as a Riverview community. It has about 6,000 people in it, and it is a food desert. There is no place within the boundaries of the Riverview neighborhood where you can buy fresh produce or fruits of any kind. So we grow it in that neighborhood on that 2.3 acre piece of property that we own. And we also have a little greenhouse that's attached to Butler County Metro Housing Authority's Dayton Lane Garden apartment building in the north side of Hamilton that we use to continue to grow in the winter leafy greens, as well as that's where we grow all of our seedlings that we use in the garden and that we use for one of our 2 annual fundraisers, our spring plant sale. And we are a totally volunteer organization. We don't have any paid staff. We rely on donations, a few small grants, but mostly we rely on volunteers. I've been working with Miami University Community Engagement. I don't know what the new name of that department is, but we've been working with Miami University since 2012, as well as the students that attend Miami University. And we've probably had, over the 12 years, probably 50, 60 different students that either did service learning, practicums, capstones at our greenhouse and gardens. We also collaborate with youth groups like Pastor Shack's Hamilton Youth Empowerment Program in the neighborhood. We work with the city. We work with Butler County Housing Authority. We work with restaurants, farmers markets. We just try to involve everybody we can, not only to volunteer at the organization, but to also help them achieve their mission of serving the community also. We do it just to provide the skills that allow people to grow their own food and live healthier. Excuse me. We are all about improving the access to affordable, local, healthy, organic vegetables, herbs, and fruits. Our 2.3 acres has a 2-year-old fruit orchard on it. It has blackberries, raspberries. It has vegetables. It has herbs. It has edible and flowers. It has pollinator flowers. It has everything that we need to grow healthy organic food and to use as a classroom to teach other people how to do the same. We do have free gardening space. We're a community garden. This year, I want to say we had 10 or 12 different families, probably 25, 30 different individuals in those families that actually gardened on our 2.3 acre garden site. And we do not charge them for that. It's you want to garden, come down and garden. All we ask you to do is keep your garden area clean, don't use chemicals, and help us keep our common areas clean. We supply plants, seeds, water, and tools also at no charge where we have them. We do grow food year-round. We have a 30 by 72 hoop house on the property where we grow things like lettuce and spinach and radishes and cool weather, cold weather crops year-round. And we also grow lettuce and spinach in our greenhouse in the north end attached to the Butler County apartment building for the residents of that building. We do all that, but that's just a means to an end. What we're really trying to do, besides supplying fresh organic produce to people who don't have access to it and giving them the skills to grow it themselves, is we're really trying to build community. Gardens are a very good means to get people of various backgrounds, social, economic backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, cultural Black backgrounds together to work together. And by doing that, we build a more inclusive community amongst the various individual ethnic and cultural groups that live in the city. That's probably more of what we concentrate on than growing food. We grow food and we concentrate on that, but it's about making people healthier, but it's also just as important to make the community healthier. And gardening is a great way to do that. We serve the citizens of Hamilton, Ohio, and as well as Butler County. We provide produce to food pantries, meal centers. We work with JEE Foods, which is a food recovery group that Ross High School students run. As I said, we work with youth groups, including Pastor Shack's Youth Mentoring Group. And we work with all kinds of outreach organizations, Sojourner, Butler County, mental health, just any outreach organization that's outreaching to the citizens of the community to try to improve the life of the citizens of our county. We work with them. And we also work with institutions and the local government and just anyone who we think can work with us in a collaborative nature to strengthen not only their own organization, but our organization while serving those who are underserved in our community. So that's what we do. Usually when I give a gardening class, what I'm really talking about is how to garden, how to grow food, how to order seed, how to set up a community garden, how to maintain a garden, how to harvest, how to preserve food, how to store food, how to use the food you grow in the months when you can't grow as much. It's usually more focused on the actual tasks around growing food. Today I want to talk about how gardening also fits into the overall health of individuals, families, and communities using the 8 dimensions of wellness that you see on this wheel. I could spend an hour on each one of these 8 sections. I didn't do that for this particular presentation. A little later, I'll talk more on the emotional, spiritual, and intellectual portions of this wheel. Excuse me. But the other portions of this wheel are just as important to the overall health of individuals, families, and communities. And it's like everything else in life, there's a balance that needs to be achieved between all these different dimensions to be as healthy as one can be. And an imbalance in one of these 8 dimensions will affect the ability for you to be mentally, emotionally, spiritually healthy because of the lack of one or more of these particular elements not being met. So if you think about it, it's pretty straightforward and common sense. Of course, gardening improves the environment in which you live in. And the environment in which you live in has a direct effect on your health. When I first came back to Hamilton after 40 years away in 2009, there was a lot of overgrown lots with trash and tires and old refrigerators and heroin needles, all kinds of stuff in them. In the 11 years that I've been back, there has been a concentrated effort to take those unused or undeveloped lots and turn them into green spaces in neighborhoods. And one of the things that we focus on is putting in those green spaces gardens. And we garden totally organically. We don't use chemical fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides. We plant pollinator gardens. We do things to bring back indigenous flora, fauna, insects, bugs. And by doing that, we create green spaces in our city that are peaceful and relaxing, and that people can go to become more familiar not only with nature and the environment, but also where their food comes from. From a physical perspective, I can tell you, in the winter I weigh about 240, 245. In the summer I weigh about 220, and that's all because I'm working in the garden. Gardening is physical work. Plants, when they're ready to harvest, that you can't wait, whether it's rain, sunshine, 95-degree weather, 100-degree weather, all those things require physical labor. The first year we were on our new 2.3-acre urban farm, we didn't have running water, so the city delivered 1,000 gallons of water a week to us at 8 pounds a gallon, 8,000 pounds in 5-gallon buckets, carried around a 2.3-acre piece of property to water. You can see that takes a lot of labor. So, but it's good physical labor, and you can see the fruits of your physical activity, which is really good. There are a lot of occupational opportunities in agriculture. And you don't have to be a big ag business. You can be a small garden that you use just to feed your family, or you can go grow food for farmers markets. You can start a home delivery service. There's all kinds of agricultural positions around gardening, and there is money to be made in it, a living to be made in it, a career to be made in it. So from an occupational perspective, gardening is a means by which you can support yourself and your family. You're not going to become a millionaire. I mean, big ag is big ag. They farm tens of thousands of acres, and it's all about how much production can we get out per acre at the least amount of cost, and sometimes at the cost of the environment and people. But you can supplement your income with a small garden, and you could actually make a decent living if you have an acre and a half of an urban farm or a rural farm. There's a whole social aspect to gardening that I wasn't aware of. I mean, I grew up, my family comes from the foothills of the Appalachia in Kentucky, Breathitt County, Kentucky. And when I grew up, I was born in 1951. If we didn't really eat it or grow it, if we didn't grow it or raise it, we really didn't have it to eat. Our money crop, the crop we use to run the farm, pay the bills, and support the family, came from tobacco and corn. But everything that we really ate, we either raised in the barn or chicken coop, or we raised in our garden. And there was a whole social aspect just of that from a family perspective, because I can remember that's probably second, third grade, and all of my aunts coming together with my mother in one kitchen for 2 or 3 weeks in the fall time. And all they did was sing songs, tell stories, curse their husbands, and can produce, fruits, vegetables, jams, jellies, beans, tomatoes. And there was a whole social environment around that. What I didn't understand, because coming from that culture, it was a very close-knit, closed culture, was that there was so many different ways to garden, so many different varieties and types of vegetables and herbs and fruits, and so many different ways of looking at growing food, preserving food, that I just wasn't aware of. And by starting community gardens and working in gardens, it was a whole aspect. Our gardeners are from Appalachia, white Americans, African Americans from the neighborhood. We have community gardeners from Somalia who have migrated to America. We have Asian, we have Latino. So all these different cultures have found this place, a garden, where it's a free, safe place to express their culture with people of other cultures to build a more inclusive community. Forget the fact you get tomatoes out of it. You get that interaction that I would have never gotten if I hadn't done this kind of thing. And there are financial gains. There's a lot of studies from a lot of different groups, but the easiest way to explain it is that a family of 4 who grows a garden to feed that family of 4 is going to save somewhere, according to what they grow, how long their growing season is, how much the weather affects it, and how many pests you have. They can save anywhere between $300 and $600 a year on their food bill just by growing a garden. And as I've already said, there are ways to make money by setting up a farm stand, joining a farmer's market, being part of a CSA. There's all kinds of other ways to gain financially. So gardening is a very good method to improve the health of individuals, families, and communities. There's been a lot of studies and a lot of actual application where animals, anything from farm animals to dogs, have been used to help the mental and emotional health of individuals. And gardening is the same way. There's a lot of studies and a lot of practical applications where that has been used to also help people be healthier, not only in body, but in mind and spirit. And the nice thing about it is the way we garden, I hate to row and hoe. I hate rowing, I hate hoeing, I hate weeding, I hate plowing, I hate tilling, but I love to garden. So there are ways that you can garden without doing all those things that are actually accessible to developmentally disadvantaged people, and they can have the same freedom and the same joy of gardening as a person who can bend down to the garden. You can put a garden in that if you can't bend down to it, you can bring the garden up to the person. So it's just a really good way to improve one's health and a community's health. Excuse me. I'm not going to go into this too much. You can more or less, I'll give you a minute to read it, but gardening really is a good way to burn calories, to get food that is healthy for you to eat. And it's like any other thing in, garbage out. The healthier you eat, what you are, what you eat and drink. So the healthier you eat and drink, the healthier you should be. So gardening just from a body perspective is very good for you. Sunshine is good for you. Well, you know, I'm amazed every year. I start my seeds in a greenhouse sometime around late March, usually into April, May. And I take seeds, carrot seeds, for instance. An ounce of carrot seeds will give you somewhere between 11,000 to 34,000 seeds. And I set them on the shelf because I know I got to plant those outside. But then I'll take an ounce of tomato seeds, hundreds of tomato seeds, and I'll plant them in potting soil, water them, put them where they get some sun. And every year I have the same thought: are they going to come up? Are they going to come up? Because it's just amazing to me, and it's just amazing to me that you take all these little seeds, you put them in soil, good healthy soil, you give them some water, and you give them some sun, and out of those seeds, one of those seeds that becomes one tomato plant, you can get anywhere from 8 to 20 pounds of tomatoes. Or I'll plant the seed, which is a pretty good size seed. If you've ever eaten a pumpkin seed, it's a pretty good size seed. But that pumpkin seed, I put it in the ground along with some other pumpkin seeds, and pretty soon I got this 20 by 20 patch of pumpkin vines that are huge. And they got these pumpkins that start off as these little teeny things about the size of a pea that grow to 25 pounds. And it just never ceases to amaze me and give me a real sense of accomplishment that little pumpkin seed that I put in the ground, which grew into that huge plant, which gave me 3 or 4 pumpkins, which turned into 25 loaves of pumpkin bread, all came from a guy who was born in the city, raised in the city, never grew a pumpkin in his life, but was able to do that. It's just a sense of wonder, but it's also a sense of accomplishment. And that, to me, is part of being healthy. That sense of wonder being replaced by a sense of accomplishment in what you've done. And it just comes from growing tomatoes. So it's a, as you can probably tell, I love to garden. I just don't like to weed. So these are just some different things. And there is no doubt in my mind, Atlanta is a good example, Atlanta, Georgia. They have what they call agri-hoods. And what it actually is it's a farm in the city that around that farm, 3 acres farm with small farm animals and gardens and flowers and those kinds of things, they build a subdivision. And the value of the real estate in that agri-hood is amongst the highest in Atlanta, simply because of that urban farm which serves that agri-hood, that community is located there. So it's just a good thing to do. It is work. It is work, but it's rewarding work. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about gardening and emotional wellness. Stress. I spent my adult life in corporate America making electronic guidance systems for missiles, defensive missiles, Raytheon Company, Lockheed Martin, TRW, and Boeing. And my job consisted of making sure that the guidance systems worked the way they were supposed to work. A lot of meetings, a lot of stress, a lot of distrust amongst people, because a lot of people were there just to step on whoever they needed to step on to get what they needed to get done so that they could get promoted. Deadlines, budgets, vendors who didn't supply what they were supposed to supply when they were supposed to supply them. And just constant stress. One of the ways I de-stressed when I worked in corporate America, as I said, when I was small, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, I lived in Kentucky, in the hills of Kentucky. And so I knew how to garden a little, not commercially like I do now, just mid-sized commercial, not large commercial. So I knew how to garden. So I always had a little garden in my yard. And one of the ways that I de-stressed every day before I went into the house to my wife and children was I would go to my garden before I went inside, and I would pull a weed, and that weed would be Dennis Picard, head of manufacturing, who gave me a hard time today, and I'd pull this weed and I'd pull that weed, and by the time I had spent 15, 20, 25 minutes out in the garden, I had de-stressed. I was a little calmer. So it helped me immensely de-stress. Well, I guess maybe not as much as it should have, because I've been married 4 times. But that's not because of my garden. But it helped me de-stress. Stress is one of the leading causes of physical, emotional, and mental sickness in our country, and probably in the world. Stress manifests itself in many different ways, both physically, emotionally, mentally, and the way you behave. Stress, it's funny. You can have a good friend or not so good friend, and everything seems to be going along okay, and then you just ask them what time it is, and they blow up. And you think to yourself, what the hell? Why is this person here? All I asked was what time it was. Well, you don't know about the 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 things that happened before you asked him or her the time. that just begin to build that stress up on them. And when you ask them what time it was, that was the last straw. Why don't you look at your own damn watch? Leave me alone. You know, so stress can affect your behavior just the way it does your body, your mind, and your emotions. So gardening absolutely helps to de-stress. My wife doesn't like it. Well, she probably tolerates it. Maybe she doesn't mind it. When I say I'm happiest when I'm in my garden. She said, what about me? Well, I'm happy with you too, but I am happiest when I'm in my garden. If you think about it, a garden, to me, I forget where I heard this, but my ceiling is the sky. My floor is is the soil I walk on. And my walls are the birds, the animals, the trees, the insects, the bugs that are buzzing, tweeting, and living all around me. So, to me, if you spend time in a green space, like a garden, it's relaxing. My wife had a dog when I met her, and the dog became mine, and we used to go to the garden every day, and that dog would come with me, Molly, Border Collie Husky. She was a good old dog. And we go, wonder what time the sun came up, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we'd work all day. Except around 11 o'clock, that dog would come grab me by the shirt and pull me over to this chair under a tree where I used to sit. And I'd sit in that chair and doze off for 15, 20 minutes. And then half an hour later, the dog would grab me by the sleeve again and get me out of that chair, telling me it was time to go back to work. So it was a relaxing. It's not like I didn't do the work. It's not like I wasn't aware of my surroundings, people who came by to visit, the birds, the bees. But I think it's like anything that you're passionate about, you lose sense of time. You're living in a space where you don't say, oh, it's 12 o'clock, I got to go have lunch, or it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or whatever. You just become totally immersed in what you're doing if you're passionate about it, and you get it done and you're aware of everything, but it's a very relaxing meditation, I guess, state. So gardens do that to you. Or at least they do to me, as do all green spaces. Some people it's painting a picture. Some people it's sculpting. Some people it's teaching in a classroom. But anything that you can do to reduce or relieve or eliminate stress in your life, like gardening does, will make you more healthy, more mindful. Your body will be healthier. Your emotions don't go through violent swings up and down, and you behave in a more relaxed manner. So gardening, from an emotional perspective, reduces stress. With all that good stuff I said on my soapbox, I can also tell you gardening can be stressful. And what you have to remember when you garden is you have a day job, maybe. I don't. My day job is retirement. But if you have a day job and you have other obligations and you have children and you have other pulls on your life, you have to remember that there are only 24 hours in a day. You've got to sleep sometime. So if you put in a 3-acre garden and you only got time to take care of a 100-square-foot garden, it's going to get stressful because, oh, gee, I got to pull the weeds. Oh, I don't have time to pull the weeds. Oh, I got to go harvest tomatoes. Oh, I can't harvest tomatoes today. I got a little league game. So keep in mind, anything you do in life has to be right-sized, and a garden is no different. If you have 2 hours a week to put into it, grow a tomato in a container. If you have 5, 6 7, 8 hours a week to put into it, then you can have a larger garden and grow more food. But right size it. You right size it, it will reduce your stress. And it will make you emotionally, I'm not going to say stable, I'm not stable, emotionally more calm, let's say. The thing I like about gardening is you really do use all your senses, and you're fully immersed in nature. I do things without thinking about it so much anymore. Every day when I go to the garden, I look at my plants and I can see the ones that are looking a little wilty and thirsty. I see that with my eyes. Where I see some that might turn, we might have had a lot of rain and maybe some of them are turned yellow, and I say, those things got too much water. I'm not going to water for a couple of days. You hear things. You hear the buzz of the bees. You hear the sounds of your garden that things make when the wind blows and when birds are there and bees are there. If a garden is really quiet, I notice that because my garden's never quiet. There's always some kind of bird or animal or insect or something that I'm hearing. The smell. I deadhead a lot of my flowers. I deadhead my herbs. I deadhead a lot of things. And when I cut the flowers that are forming on a basil plant, I smell that basil. I smell it. I walk by it. I smell it. I sit in the garden after a rain. I smell the air. I can smell it. It's just got a clean smell to it. I walk by a tomato plant, and I see a little cherry tomato ready to harvest. I pluck it and I eat it, and it tastes good. It tastes as good as any tomato you ever tasted. And the touch of a tomato plant is different than the touch of a squash plant. They all have their own texture, their own feel, their own smell, their own look. They look a certain way when they're healthy. They look a different way when they have a mold or a fungus or bugs are eating them. So you're totally immersed and all your senses are being used when you're out there planting, harvesting, tending, watering, cutting grass, whatever it is you're doing in the garden. So when you're doing all that, you don't have that much time to think about what you're going to fix for dinner or other things that aren't involved because you're more immersed in the actual moment that you're living in. Aware of what's going on, but immersed in it. So it's just, it's cool. My first garden I did here in town was across from Miami University, Hamilton, in what used to be called PECS, P-E-C-K''S, PECS Edition, which is where a lot of the poor southern Appalachia, deep south migrants came to Hamilton to live, to work in the paper mills. PECS Edition was a big hole in the ground. Miami University sits in what used to be part of the PECS Edition in Hamilton. No running water, no electricity, goats running around, chickens running around, no paved roads. Where was I going with that? Yeah, but anyways, that was my first garden, and when we first went there, we always had the soil tested because I don't like to do row and hoe gardening, but I end up doing some things in row and hoe gardening, most things in raised boxes, straw or straw bales or containers. But I do corn and beans and pumpkins and stuff like that in the ground. There really wasn't any insects or bugs or anything there. The ground didn't really have worms in it. But over time, over the 3 or 4 or 5 years we were there, the worms came back. We introduced some ladybugs and some other indigenous flowers, flora, fauna, and insects into it. And pretty soon we had praying mantis, and we had garden snakes, and unfortunately lots of deer. but we brought that piece of property that had been misused back to life, and made it a living organism that was not only producing food for humans, but producing food for the insects and birds and animals that lived in our neighborhood. So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Like I say, when you garden, you really don't think much about worrying. These are some pictures, by the way. I guess I should have probably said that, of people or organizations or community gardeners or missionaries or children that actually over the last couple of years have worked in our garden or had gardens in our garden or volunteered in our garden to help us maintain and grow our garden down on South Front Street. But I find it myself, and like I say, I think it's true for any passion you have, when you're immersed in the passion that you love to do, it doesn't give you much time to think about much of anything else. And that's why the balance is so important. If you're financially out of whack or emotionally out of whack or physically out of whack, it's hard to have that balance. And sometimes to get some of that balance back, I find it best to spend time in the garden. So when you're in the garden, you tend to garden. You don't tend to think about too much else except that. Spiritual wellness. Everybody has spirituality. I think everybody has their own feeling about spirituality. But what I have found from my time working in the garden and with people in the garden is that I'll call it my spirit. My spirit gets lifted because I have all these young people, middle-aged people, old people, brown people, black people, white people, Latino people, Asian people, all these different people coming together to work for the common cause to grow food, to share their experience and knowledge with other people, and to help better that neighborhood. That does my spirit good. That makes me feel good. It makes them feel good. We give away, donate a lot of our food. We donate to lots of different people. Let's see if we can pull this up here. Last year, we grew 3,360, some kind of number like that, of food in the garden, the food hub, the community garden down on South Front Street. And 1,300 pounds of that food was grown by community gardeners, which they use to feed their family, feed their neighbors, and feed their community. Food recovery, JEE Food Recovery, supplies food to people that are food insecure throughout Butler County. We supplied 721 pounds of fresh, organic produce to JEE Foods. Individual citizens coming by the garden. Hey, you got any green tomatoes? Yeah, come on in, pick some. Hey, do you have any this, that? Yeah, so, or if we had anything left over, we'd bag it up, and our garden is right in the middle of the, what's the name of it? I'll remember it later, but there's a low-income subsidized housing complex all around where we garden. It's got 400 units in it, maybe more than 400 units. The green space we used was built by United Way as a Pee Wee football field and a baseball diamond, but was never used for 10 years, so we turned it into a garden. But if we have produce that we harvest that for whatever reason we're not taking to a community meal center or a food pantry, we'll bag it up and we'll give it to the neighbors in the neighborhood. So that's what individual citizens means, and over 500 pounds. And as you can see, everywhere from First Pres Community Meal Center to the Open Door Food Pantry to a New Life Mission, on and on and on. We gave over, grew and gleaned over 3,000 some odd pounds of produce in a neighborhood where there are no stores that sell fresh produce, that we were able to make sure that people who might not have access to that produce would get it. So that does a body good, it does a mind good, it does a spirit good to know that people who might not have gotten that food are actually now able to get fresh produce. I can tell you, because it's amazing. A lot of people think that one of the first gardens I put in was Miami University Hamilton. We brought all the little kids at the center over to plant. So first thing I said is, well, what would you like to plant in your garden? Oh, one said, well, tomatoes. Another one said bananas. I said, hey, you really can't do bananas. But the second to last one said canned green beans, because that's where they thought green beans came from. And if you ever see a kid pull a carrot out of the ground for the first time and look at their face and their eyes, you'll know that what you're doing is not only doing you good, but doing them. All right. So it does give me purpose. Self-confidence. If it was up to me, I'd grow cucumbers, tomatoes, scallions, sweet peppers, and lettuce, salad stuff. But my wife always was after me. Patty was always after me to try something new, try something new, try something new. And so I grew pumpkins, and I grew cucamelons, cucumbers that are about the size of your thumb that look like a cucumber. We grew birdhouse gourds. We grew all stuff that I would have never grown. And it makes you more confident that, hey, if I follow the directions, if I do what needs to be done, and I tend to it, more times than not, I'm going to be able to grow something that I might have never grown before, never tasted before, and not thought I could do. And if I can do it once, I can do it again. So it does build your self-confidence. And it gives me, there's my dog, there's my chair, and there's what I love to do in the garden. But it does give you a sense of inner peace. And anything from kids coming from the School of Arts at Butler Tech to help me with the small greenhouse on North 6th Street. And if you look at the picture next to that, that's me building a box, although I'm not allowed to use sharp objects or power tools. I had somebody help me build the box. I'm not very construction oriented. But out of that greenhouse came my seedlings that went into this soil that I mixed myself in these boxes, which I put a trellis on for the higher plants. And from the time that picture was taken in early spring, to the time I got the boxes built and filled, to the time I planted, till about mid-August, that fourth picture is that same box, full of food, that fed the people in that building. And then I went and took a nap. What else is a man to do? it's amazing. It's just amazing. And it is a quiet place. I don't do much contemplation or self-reflection, other than when I'm in the garden, because I'm busy doing other things. I don't have time to just contemplate what I'm doing or just think about myself, because I usually garden alone. Patty comes sometimes, but normally I'm in the garden alone. And it's just a quiet, self-reflecting time. And I always have an umbrella if I don't have a place to shade. But all these things that you see here are food, but they're also not only food for the body, but they're food for the mind and the spirit, shared with other people that do the same thing. Some who know a lot more about gardening than I'll ever know, some who have never gardened in their life, all coming together to build a stronger, more vibrant community, feed themselves. So you can see that gardening is good for your overall wellness. I have a friend, Becky Rennick, who teaches at Bridgeport. I think she's on her second year of sabbatical. But she was one of the first ladies in the city who started using gardens at her elementary school, second or third grade. I think it's second, and then she teams them up with fourth graders who have already gone through that gardening session as mentors for the second graders. And she uses those gardens as a means to teach, to make them understand the concepts of math and science and writing and storytelling and the environment and a lot of other different things at the, what's a second grader, 7 years old, 8 years old? Yet those same lessons, those same things, those same opportunities to intellectually grow exist for me, because I don't know everything there is about gardening. I find new techniques, new ways, new fruits, new vegetables, new this, new that all the time. So gardening absolutely will keep your mind sharp. I do boxes. They're normally 3 by 6, 18 square foot. I know I can put 16 carrots in each 1 foot square. 16 times 18 carrots in one box is how many carrots I can grow in a box. I know my 3 by 6 box is 10 inches deep, so I know if it's 3 by 6 by 10 inches, how many cubic feet that is. So if I have to add soil to it, I know how much soil to buy, on and on and on and on. So intellectually, you're using your mind to, and all the science, the STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, in your garden. Drip irrigation. There's just so many things that you can learn and increase your intellectual ability to critically reason, which obviously will make you more intellectually interesting as a person. So gardening, and it absolutely gives you an opportunity to teach others what you know, learn what others know, and try new techniques. And oh, by the way, I've killed a lot of plants in my lifetime.
Same here.
Hopefully I learned from those things. I never knew about funguses and mildews and squash bugs and vine borers, my number 1 and number 2 on the most wanted list, because they're terrible in this part of the country. I never knew that if you mixed Murphy's oil soap and garlic and hot peppers and a few, other ingredients, that you could use those to keep bugs away. I didn't know that if you mix vinegar and salt, it would kill weeds, but it wasn't going to keep things from growing eventually. So you learn a lot about many different things. And along the way, you kill a few plants, but it's helped me stay young, but it's also helped me stay centered. My feet are on the ground. I'm up to my elbows in cow poop, but my feet are on the ground because that's what I do and I love doing it. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, next time around, I'll talk a little bit about true gardening, as in gardening tips I think might help you grow more food in less space with less resources.
Yeah. If anyone has a question for Alfred about presentation, you can unmute yourself or put it in the chat and I can read it out for Alfred to answer.
I put them all to sleep. See, it's very relaxing.
Yeah.
Well, I do have I don't have a blog. I don't do Twitter or Instagram. Patty does that stuff. I just basically grow stuff. But I do have a Facebook called Alfred's Gardening Tips that I put a gardening tip up every day on, and you can always contact me there. And I also have my own Facebook page that if you have a question, a comment, concern, suggestion, I'm always open to those kinds of things. And hugs can always use help. That sign you see there is located at our facility down on South Front Street. Volunteers are always welcome. Community gardeners are always welcome. Questions and suggestions are always welcome. So you can also contact us. Cool?
A lot of people saying thank you for the presentation and great presentation.
Yeah, if I gave it again tomorrow, it'd be different.
That's all right.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they enjoyed it, and everybody stay safe and well.
Yeah, thank you again, Alfred.
No problem, Chelsea. If there's anything else you need from me before next month, let me know.
All right. And for next month, it's September 16th, and it'll be a continuation of this two-part series.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And anybody who's in the neighborhood down on South Front Street, I'm going to be doing my garden down at New Life Mission. It's just across from the park on South 4th Street, right outside downtown Hamilton. I'll be pulling up grass and planting carrots, radishes, spinach, lettuce, and scallions for a late fall winter crop. So
nice.
Feel free to stop by and say hi.
Yeah.
Cool. Hi. Good night. Good afternoon, everybody.
All right. Good afternoon.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Bye.